Alright, let's talk about something interesting. When people talk about African history, they usually mention kings, warriors, or empires. But what they don't talk about enough are the women who stood up, challenged power, and completely disrupted the system. And trust me, these women did things that made colonial governments, kings, and entire empires extremely uncomfortable. So, today, in celebration of International Women's Day, we are highlighting fearless African women who refuse to stay silent. Let's get into it. Ya Asantewa. Let's start in Ghana around the year 1900.
This stool belongs to the British Crown.
The stool is sacred and cannot be given to any foreigner.
The British wanted something very important to the Ashanti people, the golden stool. Now, if you know Ashanti culture well, you know this stool wasn't just any furniture. It represented the soul of the nation. When the British demanded it, the Ashanti chiefs were hesitating about starting a war. Then, Ya stood up. She basically said, if the men will not go forward, then we will. And she meant it. Imagine that for a second, a queen mother leading troops against a colonial army. Even though the war eventually ended and she was exiled, Ya Asantewa became one of the most powerful symbols of resistance in African history. Funmilayo Ransom Kuti. Now let's move to Nigeria in the 1940s. In Abeokuta, colonial authorities were heavily taxing market women. And if there is one thing about Nigerian market women, they don't play about their money. Instead of quietly accepting it, Funmilayo organized thousands of women to protest. We are talking about massive demonstrations, marches, political pressure, and the result, they forced the Alake of Abeokuta, that is the king, to step down temporarily in 1949. Yes, a group of organized women challenged both colonial authorities and traditional rulers. Funmilayo became one of the most important political figures in Nigeria even to this day. She was also the mother of music legend Fela Kuti, so activism clearly ran in the family. Charlotte Madzike. Now, let's talk about education and activism. Charlotte Madzike from South Africa. She was one of the first Black African women to earn a university degree. But instead of stopping there, she started organizing women politically. In 1918, she founded the Bantu Women's League, which later became a part of the African National Congress Women's League. She also helped lay the groundwork for the later anti-apartheid movement. Another person made the list. Guess who? Winnie Mandela. Now let's talk about Winnie Mandela. During apartheid in South Africa, Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for decades. But outside prison, someone had to keep the movement alive. And the person was Winnie Mandela. She endured 491 days in solitary confinement. She was banished from her home. Her house was bombed. But she continued organizing resistance and speaking against apartheid. Lover, criticizer, one thing is undeniable. She became a powerful symbol of defiance during one of the darkest periods in South African history. Next up, in Kenya, we have Wangari Maathai. This one is interesting because the weapon used here was not war. It was not even a protest. It was trees. In 1977, Wangari Maathai started something called the Green Belt Movement. Her idea was simple: plant trees, protect the environment. And here is where it got political. She started exposing corruption, land grabbing, and deforestation linked to the government. And the authorities, they did not really like that. So, she was locked up. Yes, she was arrested, beaten, harassed. But you know one thing about African women: we never give up. She kept going, and over time, the movement helped plant over 50 million trees. In 2004, she became the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Awesome. Aline Sitoe Diatta. Now, let's talk about someone many people don't know about. Aline Diatta from Senegal. During World War II, the French colonial government forced farmers in Casamance to grow rice for export. Meanwhile, local people were struggling with food shortages. Aline told the farmers something simple: stop cooperating with them. She encouraged them to resist colonial policies and return to their own traditions. France responded quickly. They arrested her, deported her, and she died in detention at just 24 years old. But today, she's not forgotten. She is remembered as one of Senegal's most important resistance figures. Next is Queen Zinga. Now, this story sounds almost like a movie. Quite unbelievable. But I tell you, if you can believe some things that are written in Western books, you should be able to believe this too. In the 17th century, the Portuguese were expanding their influence across Central Africa. Nzinga was not having it. During one famous meeting with Portuguese officials, they intentionally didn't offer her a seat. The idea was to make her appear inferior. So what did she do? You know you cannot put an African woman down. She told one of her attendants to kneel and then sat on the attendant like a pro. Negotiation continued. Equal level, no disrespect accepted or intended. For over 40 years, Queen Nzinga fought Portuguese expansion using diplomacy, alliances, and military strategy. She remains one of Africa's most legendary rulers. This time, let us take it even back further into history. Queen Amina of Zaria in present-day Nigeria. She ruled in the 16th century and built one of the most powerful military states in the region. Under her leadership, the Hausa kingdom expanded its territory through strategic campaigns, and many of the defensive walls built during her time are still known today as Amina's walls. Basically, she was a queen who ran a military kingdom like a military commander. She's that queen. Next up, we have Sarauniya Mango of Niger. In 1899, French colonial forces were moving across West Africa. Most kingdoms surrendered already. But Sarauniya refused. She organized resistance and fought against the invading forces. Even though the French eventually took control, her leadership became a symbol of defiance against colonial rule. Miriam Makeba. Finally, we have Mama Africa herself, Miriam Makeba. While many people fought apartheid with protest and politics, Miriam fought with music. Her songs exposed the brutality of apartheid to international audiences. Because of this, the South African government banned her music and forced her into exile for 30 years. But you know what? She kept performing, she kept speaking, and her voice helped bring global attention to the struggle. Looking at all the stories, one thing becomes clear. African history is full of women who were leaders, rebels, thinkers, and fighters. They challenged colonial governments, they challenged injustice, and sometimes they challenged the expectations placed on women in their own societies. So, this month, we celebrate these women and many more whose stories deserve to be told. And if you enjoyed this video, like I did, subscribe to Zahara Mall Africa for more stories celebrating African culture, African history, and African creativity. Because Africa's past is powerful and its stories are far from finished. We are not done, we are just getting started.